A major diplomatic breakthrough has been reached in the Middle East, after the United States, Israel, and Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire, temporarily halting a rapidly escalating conflict that had raised fears of wider regional war. The agreement follows weeks of hostilities involving strikes on infrastructure and heightened tensions across multiple countries, and was brokered with the involvement of Pakistan acting as a key intermediary. The ceasefire took effect immediately and is intended to last 2 weeks, during which the United States and Israel will suspend bombing operations against Iran, conditional on Iran allowing safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway is a critical global shipping route through which around 20% of the world's oil and gas typically passes, making it central to global energy security and economic stability. Under the agreement, Iran is expected to ensure continued maritime access, though enforcement mechanisms remain unclear and both sides interpret the terms differently. Iran has proposed maintaining military oversight of the strait, while introducing a system of tolls for commercial shipping, potentially coordinated with Oman, a move that has raised concern among Gulf states and international shipping interests due to implications for freedom of navigation and global trade. Pakistan's role in the mediation was described as central, with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif facilitating indirect communication between the United States, Iran, and Israel at a critical point in the escalation. Pakistani officials focused on preventing further deterioration of regional stability and enabling dialogue after weeks of strikes that damaged energy infrastructure and disrupted shipping routes. Despite the ceasefire announcement, significant disagreements remain over its scope. Iran views the agreement as part of a broader framework involving regulated maritime control and continued oversight of the Strait of Hormuz, while U.S. and Israeli officials describe it as a temporary suspension of military operations tied specifically to compliance with shipping conditions. There is also dispute over whether the ceasefire applies across all regional fronts, with Israeli officials stating that operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon will continue, despite earlier suggestions that the truce might extend to multiple theaters of conflict. The humanitarian impact of the conflict has been severe, with reports of casualties, displacement, and infrastructure destruction across Iran, Israel, Lebanon, and parts of the Gulf region. In Lebanon, fighting has contributed to large-scale displacement and worsening humanitarian conditions, while in Iran, significant damage to infrastructure has been reported. International aid concerns remain high due to ongoing instability and limited access in affected areas. Politically, the ceasefire has drawn mixed reactions. U.S. President Donald Trump described it as a major diplomatic achievement and credited international partners, while Iranian officials framed it as evidence of resilience despite internal divisions between hardline and more moderate factions. Global leaders, including the UK Prime Minister, cautiously welcomed the agreement as a positive step toward reducing tensions, while emphasizing the need for sustained diplomacy. Financial markets reacted strongly, with oil prices falling sharply due to reduced fears of disruption in the Strait of Hormuz and broader geopolitical risk easing. Stock markets also rose, particularly in energy-sensitive sectors, although analysts warned that volatility could return quickly if the ceasefire collapses. Further negotiations are scheduled in Islamabad, where U.S. and Iranian representatives are expected to discuss extending the truce and addressing unresolved issues such as sanctions, nuclear policy, maritime access, and regional security arrangements. Iran has demanded sanctions relief, withdrawal of foreign forces, and unfreezing of assets, conditions that remain highly contentious. While the ceasefire has reduced immediate risk of escalation, the underlying political and strategic disputes remain unresolved, leaving the situation fragile and dependent on whether temporary de-escalation can develop into a more durable, diplomatic settlement.